Go on. Start again.
Okay, hi everyone. I'd like to welcome everybody along to the AHDB seminar or webinar that we're having tonight on Manner NPK. My name is Debbie McConnell and I work with Dairy Co. Also here tonight we've got Kate Cross from Dairy Co. and Dr Lizzie Sagoo, who works as a scientist at ADAS and who has been involved in developing the new version of the Manner NPK software. Tonight, Lizzie is going to give us a run-through of the new software that is available online to download as of last week. And Lizzie is really going to give us a demonstration of how the software works and show us a few examples of how to use it. As we're going through the webinar tonight, if anybody listening has any questions, please feel free to type them into the question box, which should appear on your screen, and Lizzie will answer a few of these questions at the end of the webinar. Okay, so I'd like to pass over to Lizzie, and she can take us through the software. Okay?
Right, thanks very much, and thank you for joining us tonight. As Debbie said, my name is Lizzie Sagoo. I'm a soil scientist at ADAS, and have been involved in developing the new version of Manure NPK. Manure is a practical software tool that provides farmers and advisors with a quick estimate of the crop available nitrogen, phosphate and potash supply from organic manure applications. If you didn't know, Manure actually stands for Manure Nitrogen Evaluation Routine. The last version of Manure, which some of you may have seen, was version 3, and that was released back in 2000. This new version, Manure NPK, incorporates new research, improved usability and new features. Manure has drawn together the latest research information on factors affecting organic manure nitrogen availability to crops and nitrogen losses to the environment via leaching, ammonia volatilization and denitrification. The new version also estimates the amount of total and available phosphate and potash from organic manure applications and calculates the financial value of the manure applications. As Debbie said, the new version of Manure was released last week and is now available to download from the Planet website. If you haven't already got it and you want to download it, go to the Planet website. The address is www.planetforfarmers.co.uk. Once you're on the website, you need to register, or if you're already registered with us, log in. Yeah, there we go. If I log in now, I can just show you. Once you're logged in, you're taken to this users area. If you then scroll down to the section on Manure NPK, and you click on this link here, you can download the software. There will be CD copies available of Manure, and we should have those ready in March. So if you'd like a CD copy, you can email us or call us on the helpline. These details are on the website and also under the Contact Us section. So now move on and actually have a look at the software. Manure is presented as 5 tabs. Let me just move the screen a little bit. That you can move between in any order. Farm and field details, application, manure analysis, results, and pound value. The first 3 tabs are input tabs, where you enter details of the organic manure application, and the last 2 tabs are the results tabs, which display the results of the software. When Manure is opened, default information is shown in all the essential fields apart from postcode. You should enter your postcode to locate your farm and the country to select the MBZ rule set, and then edit the other default information with more specific information where available. So the first tab is the Farm and Field Details tab, and this is where we enter details of the farm and the field to which the manure is being applied. So firstly, you can enter details of your farm name and address. This is not essential information, it's not needed to run the software, but you might wish to record this for your records, and it does also appear in the report. So if we just enter, I'm at Stoneleigh tonight, so if we say this is a manure application to Stoneleigh Farm Lodge, and Stoneleigh near Kenilworth, And if we enter the postcode, I think we're CV82. Oh, yeah. There we are. Then when you enter the postcode, that pulls up. That's used to select the climate data specific to the area. Manner uses climate data at postal district level. You can see that a value for the average annual rainfall for the postal district is entered here. So here our average rainfall is 677 mils per year. This value is information only and is not editable. If you wanted to see this in a bit more detail, under the Tools menu, you can go to View Rainfall Data, and that actually shows the rainfall distribution over the year. If you are wanting to edit the rainfall figure in an unusually dry or wet year, this can be done in the Application tab, and I'll move on and show you how to do that in a little while. Next, you need to select your country from the drop-down list. This is used to set the appropriate NVZ rules. Here we can enter the field name. Again, this is not essential information, but you may wish this to appear on your report. You can enter that there. Next, select your crop type from the drop-down list. There's a number of different options here. If your crop type isn't within this list, you can just select Other. So in this example, if we have a grass field, you can then select your topsoil and subsoil texture from this drop-down list. So if we leave that as a default sandy clay loam and say subsoil texture is a clay loam, you should then select whether or not your field is in an MVZ. If your field is in an MVZ, Manner will show MVZ warning messages if the manure application breaks any of the MVZ rules. Within England and Wales, there's slightly different timescale for some of the changes to the MVZ rules between existing designated MVZs and newly designated MVZs, which is why we differentiate between the two. So if we say we are in an MVZ and that's one that's existingly designated. We have a comments box where you can enter any other information that you may wish to record for your record. For example, name of advisor or date of the run, anything like that. So if I just enter webinar on Monday, and that will come through to the report. The next tab is the Application tab, and this is where we enter details of the manure application. So first of all, you need to select the organic manure type from the drop-down list. This list of organic manures includes all the manure types listed within the fertiliser manual, and also includes 3 new manure types: whole food-based digestate, whole pig slurry-based digestate, and whole cattle slurry-based digestate. So with this application, if we start with an application of old cattle FYM and say that was one that we applied in the autumn, you can select the application date either by typing it in directly or by selecting from the calendar feature. So let's say we applied this on the 15th of September last year. Next, enter the organic manure application rate. The default here is 25 tonnes per hectare. If you prefer to work in imperial units, you can change that list there, so 10 tonnes per acre, or you can change that there, or revert back to metric units. I will leave it in metric units if it's all right, if I'm more comfortable with them. Next, select the application method of soil incorporation and delayed soil incorporation. As this is a solid manure, the application method is the default of broadcast spreader. If you incorporated manure following application, you can select the method of incorporation here from this drop-down list. As we're applying this to grass, we'll leave this as not incorporated. However, just to show you, if you were to select a method of incorporation, you then have the option to select the delay to soil incorporation here, so how soon after application you incorporated the manure. As I said, we're applying to grassland, so we'll leave that as not incorporated. The next box here is autumn crop hen uptake. This is the amount of nitrogen from the manure application that's taken up by the crop in the autumn. It's important to estimate the autumn uptake of manure nitrogen by a crop planted after an autumn manure application, as this will affect the amount of nitrogen potentially susceptible to overwinter lost by nitrate leaching. Autumn crop hen uptake is only applicable to organic manure applications in the autumn period. And so if your application date is between the 1st of August and the 31st of October, Manure will show a default value for autumn crop manure and uptake here, and you can edit this if you wish. If your application date was outside that autumn period, so say if this was an application in the spring, this value here would show as 0 and wouldn't be editable. And there's an information note here which basically explains what I've just said. So we'll leave this here as a default of 20 kilograms per hectare autumn crop pen uptake. There's also a bit of further advice on autumn crop pen uptake in a technical guide which is available under the help menu. The date for end of soil drainage is the average date when the soil drainage has ended and the soil has begun to dry out as a result of crop growth. The default date shown is the end of March, and you can change this in an unusually wet or dry spring. You can enter a date yourself or select from the calendar feature. But here I'll leave that as default 31st of March. The rainfall post-application is the average amount of rainfall between the date of manure application and the date of the end of soil drainage. This is calculated from postcode-based client database, and you may edit this value if you have more specific information. Next, if you select the wind speed application from the drop-down list, this affects ammonia emissions from slurries, which are increased by high wind speeds following application. Select whether or not there's been any rain within the 6 hours of application, again from a drop-down list. Ammonia emissions from liquid manures tend to be reduced by rainfall events soon after application as a result of slurry being washed into the soil. Finally, select topsoil moisture status, whether or not the topsoil is moist or dry. Research has shown that ammonia emissions from slurry tend to be higher from dry soils in the summer than moist soils, which is why we've got that option there. Again, there's further information on that in the technical guide. One of the new features in this version of Manure is the ability to add details of multiple manure applications to a field in a single harvest year. You may add details of up to 3 manure applications within Manure now. In order to add a manure application, you can click on this icon here, Add a Manure Application, or you can go Tools, Add a Manure Application. If you've if you've then added multiple manure applications, so say for example I've just added another one, so we've got 3 manure applications, you can then clear the last manure application by clicking on that there. So we've got an application of cattle FYM in the autumn. If we say that this field then also received an application of cattle slurry in spring, let's say middle of March, first cut, let's leave the application rate for cattle slurry at 30 cubic metres per hectare. Because this is a liquid manure, you then have a number of different options for methods of application. As we're applying to grass, let's say we applied this using a shallow injector. We'll leave the date for end of soil drainage and all these other items as default. Moving on, the next input tab is the Manure Analysis tab. Within the Manure Analysis tab, it displays default nutrient values for the organic manures selected under the previous application tab. These are the same values as are in DEFRA's fertiliser manual, and they can be edited if more specific information is available. So if you've got a lab analysis, you can just type in your own analysis directly into the tab here. Or the other thing you do, if you have got a lab analysis and the lab analysis gives the results in different units, the units required by Manure, you can use the Manure Analysis Converter to calculate the results in the units required by Manure and load the data directly into the Manure Analysis tab. So say we have a lab analysis of our cattle FYM that we want to put in. So first of all, you select Load Results To. Our cattle FYM is our application 1, so we select to load to application 1. It shows the manure type there. You can select to convert lab results from whether or not your lab analysis is on a dry matter or a fresh weight basis. Generally, lab analysis for solid manures are given on a dry matter basis, and those for liquid manures are on a fresh weight basis. So if we leave that as a dry matter basis, if we enter some results here, say 23% dry matter of our total nitrogen, you can also select for each item, you can select the units that the lab has reported the results in. So if our total nitrogen was reported in grams per kilogram, so values there, and along this side of the screen it shows what the results have been converted to in units. The units are percentage for dry matter and all the other ones are kilograms per tonne. So if we just quickly enter results for some of the other items, and I can show you how it loads it to Manner. For phosphate, potash, sulphur, magnesium, just also note you can select whether the lab has reported the result as the element or the oxide, so as total phosphorus or total phosphate. Just add a few more values here. These are values I actually took from a previous cattle manure analysis that we'd had done for some work a while ago, so I haven't just made them up. And so values there. Once you've entered the values, you can then click Load Results to Manner NPK, and that adds the results directly here into the Manure Analysis tab. It's just to note, when you're using the Manure Analysis Converter, if you leave any of the fields blank in there, it will just leave the default value in this tab. Another thing to note here, for the slurry, for cattle slurry and pig slurry, we generally tend to see quite a good relationship between dry matter content and slurry nutrient content. And these relationships have been built into Manner. And so if you alter the slurry dry matter content, so here I've got 6% dry matter slurry, if actually it was a 5% dry matter slurry, you'll see that the values for the other nutrients then update. So if, say, you have a slurry hydrometer and you're able to measure the dry matter content of your slurry on farm, you can enter the dry matter here to give you a better estimate of the other nutrient values. If we now move on to the Results tab, here we have the combined results of the two manure applications, the cattle FYM application in the autumn and the cattle slurry application in the spring. So here Manner has calculated that these two applications are supplying 222 kilograms per hectare of total nitrogen. And you have a small amount of nitrogen mineralised for the first grass crop. Nitrogen losses are shown here in red. So in this case, we estimate that we've lost 2 kilograms per hectare by nitrate leaching. This has been nitrate leaching from our autumn farmyard manure application. We've lost 12 kilograms per hectare by ammonia volatilization and 3 kilograms per hectare by genetification. Down here, we've got the crop available nitrogen. This is the amount of available nitrogen remaining for the crop after losses from ammonia volatilization, nitrate leaching and denitrification have been taken into account, and also the addition of nitrogen from mineralization. So in this example, Manner estimates that there's 34 kilograms per hectare of nitrogen available to the current grass crop, and an additional 11 kilograms per hectare is mineralized and is available to the next grass crop in the current year. Just to explain here, for grass in Manner, if the manure application is before the 1st of May, Manner allocates the crop available nitrogen between the current and the next grass crop, with the additional mineralization of manure after May the 1st allocated to the next grass crop in the current year, which is what you've got here. If the manure application was after the 1st of May, it would be assumed that you're applying the manure to the second grass crop, and all the crop available nitrogen would be allocated to the current grass crop. This is explained in the technical user guide. Manner also estimates the nitrogen available to the following crop in year 2 from nitrogen mineralization, which in this case it's estimating 5 kilograms per hectare to become available in the following year. Manner also calculates the nitrogen efficiency of the manure application. This is the percentage of the manure total nitrogen which is available to the current crop in the year of application. So here, these two manure applications have a nitrogen efficiency of just over 20%. Manner also calculates the organic manure total and available phosphate and potash supply based on availability factors given in the fertiliser manual. The technical guide available from the help menu gives guidance on whether or not you should use total or crop available figures for phosphate and potash depending on your circumstances. Manner also gives you the total sulphur and magnesium supply, but does not give an estimate of crop availability for these two. If there's more than one application of manure, you can select how the results are displayed in this tab. So, for example, at the moment the default is to show the results for both applications, but if we wish to, we could just view the results for the cattle FYM application, application 1, or just the results for the cattle slurry application, application 2. Just go back to the applications there. Manner also includes NVZ warning messages specific to England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland. So if your field is in NVZ and your organic manure applications breach any of the NVZ rules relating to organic manure applications, rate limits or closed spreading periods, and a warning triangle and a message will show at the bottom of the results tab. So at the moment we aren't breaching any rules, but if, just for example, we were going to spread our cattle slurry, maybe we might even have got out on Christmas Day, and say we didn't put it on at 30 cubic metres per hectare, we put it on at 50 cubic metres per hectare. If you then go to the results tab, you've got a warning triangle here, and it says non-compliance with NVZ action programme rules. Click here for further information. And if you click there, that will show the warning boxes. So here we've actually breached 2 of the NVZ rules. The first one is non-compliance with the closed spreading period, because we've applied our cattle slurry in the NVZ closed spreading period. And the second one is non-compliance with organic manure end field limit, because you can see that we've now applied these 2 manure applications, now applied a total of 270 kilograms per hectare total nitrogen, which is greater than the 250 kilograms per hectare organic manure end field limit. Let's just go back and change that, because we really wouldn't get out on Christmas Day, would we? And go back to 30 meters cubed per hectare to rectify that breach of the rules. The final tab is the financial value tab, and this calculates how much the manure applications is, how much the nutrients in the manure is worth to you. The financial value is calculated based on default fertiliser prices, which you can see here and which you can edit. You can either edit the values in for the fertiliser products in pounds per tonne if you've got a value there, or you can change the price of the nutrient in pence per kilogram, like that. So in this example, these 2 manure applications together have a value to you, to the farmer, in say fertiliser costs of £306 per hectare. And you can see the breakdown of this here. So you can see that the first application of cattle FYM in the autumn is worth just under £200 per hectare, and that's made up of £13 per hectare in crop available nitrogen, £65 per hectare of the manure phosphate, and £121 per hectare from the potash supply there. Once you've entered all your data into Manner, you may wish then to produce a report. In order to produce a report, you can either go Tools, Produce Report, or you can click on this little icon there. And this will then bring up a report. This includes all the input and output data as displayed within the tabs here. You see it includes details of the farm at the top there, and you can scroll down and see all this information. You can then, if you wish, either print it directly, or you can save it as a PDF. It will save by default. When you install Manner, it creates a new folder under your My Documents section called Manner NPK, and then if you produce a report, it will save it by default there. The PDF report is a one-page report which can then be printed for your record. One of the nice things about Manner is it can be used to test the likely impact of changes to organic manure management practices on nitrogen losses to the environment and also crop N availability. So you can see, if you're thinking about moving your slurry application from the autumn to spring, or you're thinking about, what effect will it have if you apply your slurry using a shallow injector compared to a surface broadcast application. These are all things that you can test using the Manner software. One of the ways you can do this is actually enter details of 2 different applications side by side. So say, for example, we were wanting to improve the management of our slurry on a farm. Say we had our cattle slurry, and we normally put it on in the autumn period. Say we normally put it on at the beginning of October, just before the MVZ close spreading period, and we normally broadcast it. And we want to see what impact it would have if we were to move our cattle slurry application to the spring. So let's leave it to the middle of March, same application rate, and we were to apply it with a shallow injector. So what you can do is you can enter these two contrasting applications side by side, your autumn application with a broadcast spreader and your spring application using a shallow injector. If you then go to the results tab, you can then select to show the results for the applications individually. So you can see that in the autumn, for the cattle slurry that we applied in the autumn using a broadcast spreader, that we lost 2 kilograms per hectare of nitrate, volatilized 9 kilograms per hectare as ammonia. And this application has supplied 24 kilograms per hectare of available nitrogen to the current grass crop. It has a nitrogen efficiency of 34%. If we then want to compare that, what effect it has if we move the application to the spring and we apply it using a shallow injector, you can then just switch to application 2, and you can now see it's the crop available end has increased a little bit, not as much as I was expecting, and the nitrogen efficiency has gone up to 42%. It's perhaps a little bit low because the application rate isn't particularly high, but the nitrogen efficiency is up to 42%. That's basically telling you that over 40% of the total nitrogen in that slurry is then becoming available for crop uptake. Hopefully that's given you sort of a bit of a useful demo of the software. It's very straightforward to use. Hopefully it's shown you some of the features and things that it can do for you. Just to note, when you use Manner, each single Manner file you can use to for a single field, for manure applications, a single field and a single cropping year. If you wish to put in data for multiple fields or for multiple years, you can just create multiple files and save them. In order to save a file, you just go File, Save As, and give it a name. And these files will all be saved by default in the Manner NPK folder that's created under your My Documents section. There is a user guide and a technical guide available under the Help menu. The user guide is a very straightforward, step-by-step guide to how to use the software and how to enter the data. The technical guide includes more the background of the science behind Manner and might be of interest to some of you. Additional help and information can be found throughout the software. There's a number of these information notes here that just provide a little bit of extra information. Also, under the Help menu, we've got other relevant web links there, and there's also a library of documents that you may find relevant to you, including advisory publications split down between the different territories, and also MVZ guidance, web links for England, Wales and Scotland, and documents in there for Northern Ireland. If you're using the software and you have any further questions that you want answered, remember there's a helpline. You can contact us, you can email via the Manner email address, or you can call the helpline. The details are on the website, and then one of us will do our best to get back to you and answer your question. So thank you very much.
Okay, thanks Lizzie. I think that was a really good overview of what seems to be a really good and useful piece of software. We've got a couple of questions coming in here. If anybody else has any more, can you send them in now in the next few minutes, and Lizzie will try her best to answer them. One of the first questions that we have in, Lizzie, is can I input historical data into Manner, such as 2012 data or previous year's data, and if so, how do I go about it?
Yeah, you can enter details for any year. So if you wanted to enter details for 2012, you could do that. You can just select details of the application date under this tab here. The only thing to sort of note is what Manner does is basically it gives you an estimate of the crop available nitrogen, phosphate and potash, which is of most use to you if you're planning in your nutrient planning for the current year. So obviously in past years, if you've already put the manure on and you've already topped up with your fertiliser, it might not be quite as relevant. By all means, you can do that and put that in your records. But you know, hopefully it's of most use to people now. You know, maybe the manure applications applied in the autumn period last year, and now into the spring and the summer, it will give you an estimate of the nitrogen, phosphate, and potash to the current crop, and you can then use that to take that off your fertiliser recommendations for the crops.
Okay, thanks, Lizzie. I think, yeah, that is a real strength of Manure, being able to plan your applications for next year and seeing what options are available to you. One of the second questions that we have here for you, Lizzie, is how useful is it to get my slurry analysed, and how do I go about doing that?
Okay. Yes, I mean, we definitely would. I mean, having a manure analysis is definitely very useful. I mean, under the manure analysis tab, if I can just go back here, I think I mentioned that Manure contains default analysis for all the different manure types listed. These defaults are the values that are within the fertiliser manual. They're based on the analysis of a large number of samples, so they are definitely a good starting point for nutrient management planning. But it's important to remember that they are just averages, and there is quite a bit of variability in the data. So we definitely recommend that, if possible, taking a sample of your manure slurry and getting it analysed would definitely be of use to you. Basically, with this slurry or manure, take a sample as close to spreading as possible. There are some guidelines within the NVZ workbooks and also the fertiliser manual on how to take a sample, how many subsamples to take, things like that. Send it into a lab. The analysis should include the items that are listed here. So basically, you want dry matter content, total nitrogen content, ammonium nitrogen. If it was poultry manure, you'd also want uric acid nitrogen. Nitrate, you can ask for nitrate analysis if you've got an older FYM. Sometimes you can get a bit more nitrate. And then also total phosphate, potash, sulphur, and magnesium. And when you get your results back, then you can add them directly into Manure, and Manure will run the calculations from your results.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Lizzie. We've got another question in here on nitrogen efficiency rates for manure applied in spring. Basically, can you talk us through a little bit more about how the nitrogen efficiency values are calculated in Manure?
Yeah, okay. The nitrogen efficiency values are calculated on science. They're not. We've not had to use any of the NVZ rule, you know, the standard efficiency figures that are given under the NVZ rules. Basically, Manure calculates estimates the amount of nitrate leaching based on a number of factors, rainfall data, soil type, etc. And it also estimates losses of ammonium nitrogen based on a number of factors again, slurry type, manure type, the amount of readily available nitrogen, incorporation, all these other factors. And basically then the nitrogen efficiency, it's looking at the losses of nitrogen and any nitrogen that's mineralised, and basically it estimates the availability of nitrogen for the current grass crop, and the N efficiency is simply the nitrogen available to the current crop as a percentage of the total nitrogen applied. Within NVZ, there are minimum nitrogen efficiency values that you should use for your slurries, and so this gives you a useful guidance here of whether or not you are actually achieving the rates that are set within the NVZ rules. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to add to that, actually, having seen Lizzie develop the software, she showed us some of the models that are put in place to help predict nitrogen use and all the areas in which nitrogen is lost in the system. There's very complex, and I won't even begin to start to understand it, but a series of models that are set, that seem to be set behind all of this software. So there's definitely a lot of science put behind the software to give you those N efficiency values. Okay, I think we've just one more question for you, Lizzie, and that is looking at the Manure software. A lot of this, am I right in saying a lot of this is embedded into Planet? And what are the links between the two different pieces of software? And really, what's the advantage of using Manner over and above Planet?
Okay, yeah, I mean, there might be a number of you out there that who are also familiar with Planet or even have Planet, and you might well have heard us say that there is Manner within Planet, which is correct. The Manner calculation engine that calculates the amount of crop available N is embedded within the Planet software. So basically, if you were to enter details or go in your application within Planet, the value you get at the end of it for available nitrogen from the manure application is the same as you get from Manner. However, there are a number of advantages to Manner as a standalone tool. It's a lot quicker and easier to get that answer out of Manner than it is to go in and get it out of Planet. And one of the other advantages of Manner is that you can play around with it and you can see the effect of changing manure application timing from the autumn to the spring, or the effect of applying with a shallow injector as compared to surface broadcast. And it's quite quick and easy to do that within Manner rather than Planet. So I definitely say that there would be advantages to people of having both of these software tools, both the standalone version of Manner as well as Manner embedded within Planet.
Okay, that's great. Well, I don't think we've any more questions, so all that's left for me to do really is thank Lizzie for coming along tonight and giving us an excellent overview of the Manner software. As Lizzie said, it is available to download on the website, so I really encourage you to get out and download that software and get using it. And if you have any questions, come back to us, use the help support that is there. It has been developed, so it might as well make the most of it. We just have one quick question that's come in here at the end, and I'll maybe put this forward to Lizzie here before we go. The question from Jane says, is it possible to save the date input in Manner as a record in Planet?
Okay. There's not actually any data transfer between the standalone version of Manner and Planet, so no, you can't do that. You would have to then enter the data again within Planet. I'd say that probably Manner is a useful tool when you're sort of planning a manure application, look through the input of it. Obviously then enter the details in the Planet, and that actually helps you integrate the manure application into your nutrient plan. So what Planet does is it then takes the figures for the crop available nitrogen, phosphate and potash. It also gives you your fertilizer recommendation to the crop, and it takes off the supply from manure, and it also then gives you what you should be applying, what you should be topping up with bad fertilizer. So you may wish to first of all look at Manner and then go to Planet, but no, unfortunately there's no data transfer between the two.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Lizzie. Okay, I think that's everything for the evening. We'll wrap up. Just one more thing to mention is this Manner NPK has obviously been funded by a large selection of industry bodies, and Dairy Co is only one small part of that. So to acknowledge everybody, funding from everybody that has contributed to what really is an excellent tool to be used. I just wanted to highlight that Dairy Co, for anybody that's interested, Dairy Co is having a research day on the 27th of March at Reading University, and at the day will be, it's an open day event where we'll basically be showcasing some of the up-to-date research that's going on, and nutrient efficiency is certainly a theme that will be running through that day. More details are available on the Dairy Co website. The webinar, Technology for Milking, should be also be available on the Dairy Co website at a later date. So just search for the webinar or Manure NPK on the Dairy Co web, and you'll find links to the webinar, hopefully, and to the site to download it as well. Okay, so I'd like to thank everybody for joining in, and hope you find the webinar useful. Okay, good night.